of what we've taken so far. What it really, it's the dreadful consequences that happened. In other words, God is going to tell Adam and Eve their outcome, and also he's telling Satan his outcome. You know, in doing so, it gives us a little more courage in what we need to do, how in following Christ. The lesson is found in Genesis 3, starting at 14 to 24. All right, shall we read? And the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, above all every beast, and of the field, and upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust thou shalt eat all the days of thy life. The thing that I had looking at that first verse that's in the reading here, and my question was to myself was, and it said upon its belly. Now, did it walk upright? Was Satan walking upright? In this time of was serpents walking upright? Because this first verse, it says, and upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put immunity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In the sorrow that thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be on thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, behold, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hearest eaten of the tree, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake, in sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it be bring forth unto thee, and thou shalt eat the herbs of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it thou hast taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all the living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothe them. And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent them forth from the Garden of Eden to the ground from whence he was taken, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east end of the garden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep away from the tree of life. This is where God is telling Adam and Eve their outcome from eating of the fruit and eating from the tree which he told them not to, and also telling Satan that he would be cursed the rest of his life as well. And placed at the end of the east end of the garden was a cherubim, which was actually basically, when you see or hear these in the Bible, they're almost like bodyguards for Christ. And they were there to guard that garden, so that now that, because Adam and Eve had found that that fruit is capable of eating and everything, just make sure they don't eat it. That's what that cherubim's there, to keep them out of the garden. And this is really the judgment that God has made on Adam and Eve and the serpent because of their sinfulness as they did, not doing what they were told. And looking at the situation from a human perspective, we would say God's original plans and hopes had been dashed to pieces, and it was now for plan B instead of plan A. Well, God only has one plan, and it's plan A. And that's what it was. And it let Adam and Eve know that because of their sin, that there was judgment going to come upon them. God knew ahead of time what was going to happen. And it, like Steve had mentioned last week, and remember he brought it up to our attention how and read that God knows everything, and this is the way that we believe. God knows everything what's going to happen before us and after us. That is true.
That could have been changed when Noah's flood came. And after the release of the animals upon the earth again, then all of that could have been changed, because you have to ask yourself the question, how did Noah get all those animals on that ark? If they couldn't communicate with them.
Right. Right.
So I believe there was communication between man and animal life at that time. So, we don't know, but it's a good thing because Noah got all the animals on the ark.
Right. Now, and also, the animals that got on the ark, God sent them. Noah didn't go collect them. God sent those animals to get on the ark. So the ones that he got on there were ones, there might be ones that were left behind that were deceased because they would not have survived what was going on or not taking part too. I mean, that's one of the things that I had thought out back along, but well, right. Yep. Yeah. 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 Right. Let's just hope he has a zoo up there. I'd love to have a zoo and have all these. I tell you, maybe that's why he's holding off a little bit, because we got too much knowledge of asking too many questions. But he began with the serpent and had them led into, because he led them into disobedience. And because Adam and Eve's disobedience, the entire creation fell under the curse from God. And that's because they are the beginning of the world. They're the beginning of people. So, and the implication is that it was originally a beautiful, upright creature, and that was referring to Satan or the serpent. was a beautiful, upright creature. Under the curse, it would now slither on the ground and appear to eat dust. Eating dust is a statement showing a sign of deep humiliation. While some people like and enjoy snakes, most people frown away. And now, I enjoy seeing them from a distance, like on the television and stuff like that. But and they are very interesting, but I wouldn't want to be where I could. And this state is really getting into a situation with snakes that's real bad. The woman in Genesis 3:16, giving birth to children now held the outlook of being intensively painful. Now, there would be great joy in conceiving and bearing children, but it would be the tempt by the pain of the actual birth. And God makes it, wording makes it sound as there may have been some pain at childbirth without the fall, but now he said it would be greatly multiplied and increase. And the second consequences would be for Eve. The desire shall be for thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Now, for Eve, this means that she, in childbirth, is going to be much more painful than what it either had been in the first or whatever. But and then also, God's stating, now Eve, she was on the same plateau as Adam. They were the same. But now she falls one notch below her husband. Now, because he shall be the ruler or the person in charge, where they were on the same playing field until this point. The desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. There's a lot of mixed thinking in there, according to the people that put this together. There are those that think this judgment might mean the sexual desires, but that the woman should desire to rule over man is really what it's trying to say. And we all know right now there are many women who are very capable, but they're out there and they want domination over the man. And you see it, and I don't think it's a majority, but it sure is getting to be a nuisance sometimes. Yeah, you know. I know, I got to. Well, but it's the truth. It's the thing is because the woman tries to dominate, that creates a problem, and the man should be the dominating feature, and their life should be worked out together. Yeah. It should be worked out together.
In nature, most male dominate female. In nature.
In nature. Yes.
It does teach us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the problems with our problem in our country right now is women trying to usurp authority over men.
Yes.
Females eat the males
Yeah.
after they get
Yeah, they're wanting to be, you go and above.
Right.
You got politicians that are, that are like that, which I think we have to get home to the dishes.
Well, a lot of times in animal kingdom, the females eat the male after she gets what she wants.
And well, then, no, I don't like that idea. Yeah. Yes, but you're right. Go ahead.
I believe God created, like you said, He created us equal. After Eve listened when she shouldn't have, she had the consequence of coming down a notch. And he, it was, he made, the man makes the decision after the talking about it. She didn't lose her, she did not lose her sanity or her knowledge. She just lost her authority, which was equal with Adam. Now, there's nothing wrong with having Adam as the responsible party because that's a woman's protection. But when you don't communicate is where everything gets tilted.
Well,
Where did you find that? That woman was made equal without man. Where did you find that?
Didn't he say that Adam and Eve were equal?
No.
If when they were first, no.
I did.
And she's in healthy, and healthy is not equal.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, choices words.
That's a good idea.
But I mean, one wasn't over the other.
No,
He helped her.
she helped him.
I mean, she helped him, but their mentality was equal. It didn't say, now you're going to take care of this woman. It just said, she was made from his rib to help him. But that didn't mean that he was going to make her less knowledgeable than Adam. She was just going to help him.
Well, I disagree with that lady. Yeah.
What makes good sense to
Yeah. This is the way it is at home, unfortunately. We discuss many times, and she has one look and I have the other.
I just got word that if Deborah had stayed home and done the dishes, she wouldn't.
What about this question? Here's a question to think about. You know, God made man from the dirt, but why did he pick a piece of the man and make the woman? See what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Why did he take the earth and then make the woman like he did the man?
That's because
They were supposed to be part of one another. They were supposed to have a
Right.
togetherness.
Right.
And if you notice, he takes it from the rib. Have you ever hurt your knee or your back or something, had to have crutches? Where'd it go? You
No.
leaned on it. It came off your rib. It's kind of like under your arm. And if you notice a good relationship between a man and a woman will help uphold the man.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Mhm.
Even though my wife at home, nobody knows, really runs things, but when we get out here, she makes it look like I do. See what I mean? That's generally, usually how it works in a healthy relationship.
It does. In a healthy relationship, it's the same. Yes. Yeah.
But she lets me have the last word, but if it's not the word she likes, there's little things at work where you end up giving in.
That's
I don't know if anybody understands that, but I'm telling you, that's what
In
happens.
other words, you don't like soup on the couch.
I like to eat.
Well, we can take this, we do have this example in the New Testament, that the older woman are to teach the younger woman how to love their husbands and how to keep house and things like that, teaching them. I mean, that's the responsibility of the woman
Yes.
in the house, in the church, in
Yeah.
the world there to do these things.
Yep.
So we can go back over to this, right here where we're at right now. What's that woman to do? And if you
That's right.
because she's mother of living. She hasn't had a child yet.
Yep.
So he named her Eve.
Mm-hmm. And prior to that, she was only referred to as woman. And so, yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, these subjects, questions can go on and on and on, but it basically boils down to what we've all have said. The woman in our generation is equal partner in everything that we do. And I know in our household, we discuss things, and sometimes I don't agree, sometimes she don't agree, but it boils down that we come to a common ground, and it's usually I word it one way, she words it another, and we're both saying the same thing. I mean, that's what a lot of times it happens. But and this is a case where Adam changes her name from woman to Eve, and it does mean what Pastor just said was give life and be among the living. Now, since the land now has been cursed because of this downfall from Satan, Adam's going to have to get out and work for his food. He's not going to be able, you notice before, it was said that fruit was everywhere. Well, now the thorns, the thistles, and everything else that grows up around the fruit and stuff becomes a problem. And so now he has to work the ground so that it gives him the grain and food from which would be a struggle. The same Hebrew word was used for telling Eve of her childbearing and would be in the sorrow. It signifies labor and pain. Having to work, not the punishment. Adam had been placed in the garden to tend it. With a pleasure experience. Now, again, we don't know what Adam's age is, but they've been in the garden for a while. They've had rule of the garden. They've had to walk wherever they want to and eat of everything except of this tree. So it's been very pleasurable. And but now they're on the outskirts of this garden because God had them leave, put the cherubim there so that they could not come back to be near the tree. Now, that was the main thing that he put the cherubims in there was to keep them away from the tree. Now, but now Adam was going to encounter hindrances that would make the work much harder and would require a lot more exertion, and before it would be would have been a lifetime requirement of his life and what he's doing. Now, detailed results is in Genesis 18 and 19. Paul told the Roman believers that the sufferings were experienced were pale in comparison to the glory we will enjoy in heaven. And in Romans 8:18, it says, we are eager for this change to occur because we have been made subject to vanity and given over the bondage of our corruption that caused this undesired condition. The sin that Adam and Eve committed brought the curse upon God's creation. And now we too wait for the ultimate redemption for our lives, which is we all hope to, when the Lord calls each one of us, that we're going to be going to heaven. And and Adam would experience that the proof of this situation, the thorns and thistles would become nuisances as they mixed in with the grain. So he was going to have to deal with those first if he wanted to eat. In other words, you just couldn't go get the fruit that you want to eat and enjoy it. He had to get rid of all the stuff that created a problem in his garden or area that he was eating. The toll would be strenuous, that he would sweat profusely as his body labored to maintain a steady internal temperature. This kind of work was going to be required until the day of his death. When God said he would return to the dust from which he had been created, at this time also, God is looking at protection for them because, first of all, they were in the garden and they were nude. Now, because they realized that they had sinned, had tried to hide themselves and cover themselves with fig leaves. And there are two events that are recorded in these verses. Adam named his wife Eve, and God made clothes for them. Now, see, God knew they were going to be around. It wasn't like at first it was thought that because they sinned, they were going to die. It didn't work that way. They were going to be around. And he made clothes for them out of skins of animals. Now, it doesn't say anywhere that he went out and killed. Sorry over there. Doesn't say that he was going to kill a particular tribe for skins. Doesn't say, but it does just say that they were covered by clothes of skins. Yep.
First, I want to go back to, verse 15, you read that, right? I put enemy between the woman and the man, and the seed and her seed, which shall bruise the head. That right there, this is why I know that God knows everything, past, future, and present, because that right there is the first prediction of Jesus Christ coming on the scene, which is Genesis chapter 3, verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time that God says that there's going to be a woman who's going to bear a seed. In other words, a man has a seed that's going to be in the woman, so he's prophesying a virgin birth right here.
Right.
Verse 15. And you go over here to 21, what you just discussed right here. Now, I have to find it in Leviticus, but they believe, the scholars believe right here in verse 21, when God killed these animals, he first showed Adam and Eve about the sacrificial system that he wanted to uphold. Because without the letting of blood, there's no remission of sins. Because the very next thing we go into is as Cain comes up with his two things. Well, how did they know to do that?
Right.
You go to Leviticus, and I'll find the chapter in the verse, and you can take it back to there, and it tells what the remission of sins, what they had to bring.
Mm-hmm.
They had to kill an animal, they had to do an offering, and that's why, in the very next, when we get over here in Cain and Abel, why Cain killed Abel.
Right.
Because they had to bring an animal. He was jealous because it was harder to farm and do the ground than to be a shepherd, and he wanted to bring his grain offering. So we know through what happens in continuing this chapter that God has set up a sacrificial system for man right here in verse 21.
That's correct. That is right. Yes?
Something else that I thought about with the sacrifice of Cain and Abel. Of course, when you're a new Christian, that seems to hit you and hit you and hit you and hit you. And I said, Lord, why did you accept one and not the other? And one of the reasons was the vegetables would have died anyway. They were not a living thing. It was the lamb, the offering, the blood offering would have lived for a long
Well, we'll be taking them up next week anyway.
Here it is right here. Leviticus chapter 1. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, if any man of you bring an offering unto the Lord, you shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd or of the flock. And his offering shall be a burnt sacrifice of the herd. Let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it voluntarily, of his own voluntary will, at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. Theologically, when you study and break it all down, that right there is what God told him in verse 21. They were to do.
That's what
And
they.
and Abel, Cain did not do it. He was jealous of his brother, and they believe Cain and Abel actually was twins. Okay? Because in the conception theory here, when it doesn't tell about two different pregnancies. All of a sudden she's pregnant, and here they are. And so Abel brings the proper sacrifice, and Cain brought the sacrifice of a farmer. And the jealousy came, and the blood, he didn't follow. He wasn't obedient to the word of the Lord.
That's right. Satan's a,
What's rather odd about the story is this took place in the Garden of Eden. I mean, it didn't take place outside after God drove him away.
no.
He did this in the garden, the place that was supposed to be paradise. So what you had here, you had a couple of deaths in the garden before God ever really set this thing in motion.
Right.
Adam and Eve died spiritually. Now you have animals that are dying in the garden.
Right.
A place where it should not have taken place, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
It's really amazing how that God tells this story for us so we can see it. Something that happened, what, 6,000 years ago?
Right. And I believe the evidence of the garden actually was destroyed by the flood. I mean, I can't say that for sure because it doesn't say, but I know people that are looking for different geographical things to bring us back to where it should be, and they can pinpoint almost where the Garden of Eden should be, but it's nothing but desert at this point, you know. And I believe it was destroyed at the flood. Yeah.
The flood changed the whole face of the earth.
Right.
Once that flood hit the earth, it changed it. It set the earth off into it tilted the earth, caused the seasons to come about, winter and summer and things like that. And God told that back here in Genesis chapter 1, that these things were going to happen, that the earth would be signs, seasons, years, and days. And what's he do? The great flood comes along, kills the earth. Earth now has winter, summer, days, years, months.
Yep.
All of these things that God said in Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wanted to make a comment on what Pastor was saying about the gardening. It just goes back to show about man. They were in paradise,
Mm-hmm.
and then their greed still came up and changed everything. Because they had to have everything they thought. They had everything, but not to them. They didn't have everything. So they had to get the one thing that they weren't supposed to have.
Right. And at this point in the garden, they realize that they need to be clothed. And God, instead of God's letting them just flounder around, he went and made clothing for them. Now, it says here, where Adam and Eve had tried to cover themselves by using fig leaves, but this was inadequate. So God saw to it that they received something suitable and that would last much longer. The text does not tell us or say that he killed animals to provide their skins for them, but the implication is certainly there because when he told them that he had skins for them to cover themselves, the animal had to be deceased at that point to do that. Then, now he had done all of this to them, and they were still in the garden. Now he's going to let them know that they are going to be removed from the garden, from this beautiful garden, they're not going to be there. They're going to have to be on the outside. They're going to have to make their way for their food. It's going to have to come from the land outside of the garden. And also, at this time, I believe animals began to not live together as quiet and peaceful. I think at this point, the animals themselves are starting to fight for this one and that one and everything. Once again, God conferred with himself and determined that the people must never be allowed to eat from the tree of life. Their understanding of good and evil had been awakened, making them so that they extend more like their Creator than before, but a different way. God knew that they had to live forever in their fallen condition, and their condition it was unthinkable. God therefore took immediate action and prevented such an unthinkable condition. He sent Adam and Eve out of the garden. And this, you can see God telling them, you know where the boundaries are. You're out. Yeah?
I have a question. I want to read this to you, see what I think. And the Lord God said, behold, man has become as one of us. What was he referring to there? Man has become as one of us.
Yeah.
Knowledge of good and evil.
Who is he referring to?
Mm.
He's saying, man has become as one of us.
Yep.
No, Father, the three,
Yeah, he's talking about the tree.
Yeah.
Us, when he did the,
I think it could be even deeper than that, because the Bible also goes on to say that you're a child of the devil until you get saved. Because you know good from evil. And then it says, once you get saved.
God is referring to himself in the scripture. Behold, the man has become as one of us. God said, behold, the man has become as one
Let's
of us.
see the word us there.
And so he's talking about one of them.
As a God.
He has to be referring back to verse 15,
Yeah.
the prophecy of the coming of Messiah.
Mhm.
And the only one that we could ever become like would be Jesus.
Right.
That's the only one. Because we're not like God, that's for sure.
Well, we would have been if he hadn't put us out of the garden, because we'd live forever. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We had that knowledge of good and evil, plus we'd have had eternal life if he had not separated us
Think
from
of
the
it,
tree.
we would have never had knowledge of evil. If they
Right.
had not eaten that tree. Because we already knew good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Boy, there's a lot into this.
Yeah, it is. An awful lot. Okay. Again, God therefore took immediate action to prevent such an unthinkable condition. He sent Adam and Eve out of the garden. And at this point, he placed a guard on the door, on the outskirts of the garden or on the edge. Not only removed the garden, but also stamped the ribbon in the front of it, them out. First, he drove out the man and his wife. God banished or expelled them forcibly, then turned to the east side where he put the cherubim. And the cherubims are portrayed consistently in the Old Testament as being that surround and protect God's presence. They are like holy bodyguards. And in the garden, they protected mankind from doing something that would have had eternal consequences for separation from God. And in doing so, God protected the holy plan for them. It was utmost important that Adam and Eve never eat of the tree. If they did, a terrible condition would occur. Um, the I guess it way you have to look at it, that they had maybe came through the garden because that tree was still there, and that cherubim protected the tree just to make sure that Adam or Eve or even their descendants wouldn't eat of this tree. So anybody got any questions before we finalize for the day? The tree, yeah, I was looking myself at a map that I have that shows the area, and you know basically where the garden is, and you know what happened to the tree. And the tree, huh?
It's gonna be back.
Yeah.
It's gonna be back. It's gonna be back there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody got any other questions? That's it for today for me.